Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Ethics of Victoria 2, number 3B. In this version, we are maintaining an eternal occupation of the United States of America, which so far has done pretty terrible things to our economy, and other than that, we are colonizing Africa, which we are just in the very beginning steps of the scramble for Africa right now. I realize that we are putting a lot of effort into colonizing up north and really no effort into maintaining into really just pushing forward into the central areas of Africa, which is where we're really going to need to double down our investments. The obvious way to do this would be to build up our navy, although right now economically we're not really doing all that spectacular. We also don't really have very many naval bases upgraded to such an extent that we're able to really do that. And we can't really cut funding to our army since we need it in order to really just push forward against the United States. I'm not quite sure if they will be able to build up an army large enough to contest us, although right now they have 0 brigades, so we are in a decent spot right at the moment. We don't really have to worry about our colonies until October, although obviously it would be very ideal if we were able to build a bunch of, or not really even a bunch, but if we were able to build enough naval vessels or bases so that we could actually get another colony going. Once again, we're never going to accept a peace deal with them. Looks like Poland got all of their cores as part of a crisis, so that is fairly interesting. And Italy ate a little bit of France, which I don't actually remember happening, but that is kind of neat. Alright, so it looks like the Americans are building up a small force. We really don't need to worry too much about them rising up again. We do probably need to smash these American reactionaries, though, just so they don't become a kingdom. Just because a kingdom is kind of a more stable form of government, and ideally they'll be fairly unstable. Enough at least that we can just maintain an occupation of Washington and let the rest of their countryside fall to various rebels. That is essentially the ideal. We'll see how well it actually plays out. And we'll just keep carving our way through. It looks like we will be able to pay off our loans just over time. And there's really nothing all that terrible about that. Yeah, so we're just going to maintain the occupation. Just really hope beyond hope that nothing absolutely terrible happens. Mexico did declare war on us a little bit ago, so we're probably going to just keep bludgeoning into them and hopefully take over a considerable amount of their countryside as we colonize and do all these other things. So there's definitely going to be more of a... well, we're going to be a little bit more restrained in this campaign than in the other. I assume it looks like Portugal is actually going to be colonizing to an extent which is, well, decently unfortunate. So we're probably not going to get as much in Africa as in our other campaign. However, as the moral America, or as the moral Confederacy, we didn't manage to take over any portion of Africa whatsoever. So we're doing medium well. We'll see how it actually ends up playing out. And a very interesting thing might be in the long term. Not to really spoil too much of episode 2A, as honestly I'm not really sure what order everyone's going to be watching these in. However, there is definitely something to be said about the element of our own national safety that we're basically going to have guaranteed by keeping the United States occupied entirely. It looks like we might not get Western Mali, which is deeply unfortunate. So we are going to have to invest into Eastern Mali. And there is a little bit of risk that we'll get cut off, or at least we won't be able to grab as much land as we were hoping to. And our relatively low amount of colonial power is not really helpful to us in this instance, although we could probably defeat the Danish in this colonial race. And we are just going to keep carving through. I believe at this point we can probably safely cut funding to our military, at least to a degree. Actually, looking at these rebels, we probably shouldn't. We'll go ahead and have our people support laissez-faire economics, simply because those are all of our parties anyway, and we may as well keep our people less upset. No matter what, just keep them less upset. Alright, so we can repay all these loans. In fact, we're not going to do that just yet. as we still have some naval bases we need to upgrade. That is probably more important than loans. Although it actually looks like we're upgrading everything right now, so that's very good. We will build just a bunch of commerce raiders, and this is the only place where we're able to build our most advanced vessels, so we will just keep building ironclads out of it right now. Ironclads and monitors. And then with that all done, we will actually repay the rest of our loans. And then with our remaining budget surplus, we will pay for education, and then we will drop our tariffs down to, let's say, 50%. And that should get our economy to actually function in a, well, to actually function just in general. Alright, now it looks like we'll be able to defeat that force, and then we will occupy the last province where they are raising a military. And really, as soon as we defeat that army, we can probably just stop this, well, really just stop funding our military so much, and we'll just take over that one province and cut this funding right now since we don't really need to maintain it. Alright, and we're good. So hopefully they don't end up having a considerable military strength. I don't believe they can really recruit very many forces, and it does look like they're having a little bit of an issue with rebellions, so we'll just occupy our way back down to our own country and we are fine. Get some socialists in that upper house, get some health care to the plebs, and yeah, we're doing pretty well. Alright, we can also go ahead and make some protectorates over here. So we could go after Sahara. That's not really the most optimal place to go. We'll go for East Angola and also up to Ubangi, Sahari. And yeah, these Portuguese, though, they are definitely spreading, and they probably have a decent amount of colonial power. Although it looks like they won't actually be able to take over all of these regions, so that's good. They overextended themselves, and hopefully that will limit them in the long run. Alright, and our long occupation is continuing. There's probably something to be said about occupying the entirety of their coastlines. We really don't have the forces to do that, so we're not going to, although we are keeping their economies, or their industry score down pretty low by occupying them as much as we already are. And Mexico is doing a very good job of just cutting them to pieces. So that's good in a way, but also very bad in a way, because we might have to deal with a very powerful Mexico in the long term. So we're going to just keep bludgeoning into them for provinces until we get to the point where we can't add any more war goals. And then at that point we're going to just have to deal with the situation as we find ourselves in it. Unfortunately, it sounds like we have a rather loud plane outside. I really hope my mic isn't picking that up. I don't really know how sensitive this one is since I have it just fairly new. Alright, at any rate, we'll hopefully be able to get a good portion of Africa. That's really going to be the ultimate objective. And we are building a lot of ships, so hopefully that'll help us with our colonial power. And we will just keep carving to the sea. Oh, it looks like we don't even need to carve to that sea since they're already basically pushed out of it, so we'll just rove our forces back onto the border with Mexico. And just be prepared in case there are any sorts of rebellions or anything, although I don't believe there will be since we are the most powerful America that there is. And it looks like Canada has their quasi-independence. Very cool for them. And yes, we'll just kind of maintain course. And we do still have a few ports that we need, or a few areas that we need to occupy. But other than that, we are in a good spot, I would say. The United Kingdom will not ally us, which is somewhat unfortunate, although not really the most unexpected thing. We really did luck out in the other America, the peaceful America, where we did manage to get them to ally us. So I'm not really sure what the actual difference was, at least insofar as the difference that convinced the British. And unfortunately they are taking North Cameroon, which means they'll get up to there and very realistically be a threat to our future colonial endeavors. So that's not ideal. Also, it looks like Russia and France are going to be quite not boosted, but buffed from their colonial possessions in China. And hopefully we manage to get enough boats that we're able to at least contest the British in North Cameroon. We'll probably have to rush up out to Chad and Wadi, although that's not really the worst circumstance to find ourselves in. Alright, and now we have a decent amount of colonial power, so we will go ahead and contest North Cameroon. Oh, unfortunately it looks like our navy is being attacked, so we probably won't be able to maintain this for very long. And we're actually going to just cancel the naval rally points that we have, just since we don't really want our forces to sail out and get smashed by the American Navy. Alright, at any rate though, we're doing decently well, all things considered. And the British are definitely going to be investing rapidly. We did lose one of our ships, which isn't great. But everyone else will just stay in port. And that should do a decent enough job. It looks like we will definitely be able to defeat the Danish, although they are pressing forward in the Sahara, and that isn't ideal at all. On the other hand, we are moving forward. It looks like Portugal fell from great power status, or from secondary power status even. So that element of it is good. Let's see. We're probably not going to be able to take as much as we want. That's a very realistic end result. We might even not really want to press for Herio land, since we might want to go cut off the Portuguese, and at some point we are going to have to worry about Somaliland. So yes, at any rate this is going medium well, I guess we could say, to kind of misuse those words. We will just encourage a bunch of ironclads and spam commerce raiders as much as we're able to, as we really do need these colonial points if we're going to be successful. Looks like there are more American reactionary rebels, although they are very low strength right now. So we'll just keep battling them at the moment, at least. Alright, and the Danish are definitely a concern. And we really do need to rush forward. Oh, and the British are over there in Somaliland, so that's very bad. So we will rush over to Equatoria and hopefully get into Rift Valley before they can block us. So this is at least going to be a fairly interesting thing. The French have taken over even more of China, so they're definitely doing well there. We're losing the race in Western Mali. We will keep investing. I'm not sure how Denmark has so many colonial points. It's a bit concerning. And it looks like we might actually have to keep up our military budget, and we should actually probably move one of these armies. We'll just move these two armies, combine them as one, to Washington, and we will just defend Washington. And really nothing else, since there's not much else we can do at this point. American communists are all over the place, which isn't the greatest. And we should really work on economy tech so we will get tax efficiency boosted. And that should hold us over for a little while. Richmond, you're a lady, get some prestige and all of that, and we will really just step up our military budget. In fact, we should probably bring our whole army there and just fund it 100%. This will take a bit of a toll on our economy. That's just something we're going to have to deal with. Alright, so we'll get all of our forces there. It looks like there is a small actual American army, which is not the best thing. We are losing some colonial races, which is also not ideal whatsoever. We'll just have to maintain our position as best we can. We may have to give up on having a solid land connection from one portion of our empire to the other, and that is not really something I want to give up on, but if we must, then we must. As long as we're able to press through, we really do need to focus more on taking over this eastern portion. We'll get a temperate or a temperatine culture, however you say that. And we will prep for the inevitable battles of Washington, D.C. As long as we defeat the regular standing American army, though, we are in a good spot, and we're just going to have to hold this position really just forever. Once we get gas attack in 24 years, we should be in a good spot, but that's obviously way out in the distance. Alright, so, yeah, wow, the Danish are really successful colonially, and that is just absolutely problematic. When are our naval bases going to be finished? Too long. Far, far too long. Alright, we are taking attrition, which is not optimal. We'll pull back our forces a little bit and just keep these guys as reserves. Hopefully they don't come up. Alright, we'll just merge all of these troops. We're 3 out of 3 dig in. So it looks like we're going to have a pretty significant battle in just a moment. We will maintain in Western Mali. And I really do want to cut them off in Niger. And we have until April 16th for that, and then also until June. We can create a colony. We don't want to do that. Alright, tons of American rebels. Very much not an optimal situation. And we definitely are not performing as well as we could be in some of these colonial little battles. Alright, we can create a protectorate. And now we're going to rush into Botswana and hope with all our hearts that we're able to press out of Equatoria and into Rift Valley. Worst case, we're just going to have to settle with what we've got. And the Danes are being a tremendous issue, and just general threat, and really just any bad negative word you could say. They are just, well, it's going to be an interesting and potentially very trying time with our colonies. We're losing the race in Bos Congo. We're really losing a lot of these colonial races. We need to stop them in Niger and get a little bit of breathing space. As long as we're able to take over Rift Valley and Botswana, then we can just focus on contesting the rest of these different colonial areas. Alright, there we go. We have a ton of points now. We'll invest in these two areas and just try to stop the Danes. Alright, we will withdraw right now and rush over into the Rift Valley, as we absolutely must stop the British from getting in. American reactionaries are taking over their countryside. That's really to be expected. And we might lose in North Cameroon. So that would be far less than optimal. And we are definitely going to lose in Niger since we had to pull out of there. Looking back, most of our naval bases are done, not all of them though. And we do still have a little bit before the rest are finished, so that is good overall. Alright, so we're able to maintain, at least to a decent degree. We really do need to stop the British from winning right here. And other than that, we'll just try to tread water. Alright, so January is really going to be the main month. January and March. Those will be the moments that matter the most. We don't really need to worry too much about anything else right now. There are a ton of American reactionaries, and that's really just going to be something that spreads across their countryside. Alliance offer from Denmark. Interesting. I don't really want to ally them since I'm fairly upset by the just severe amount of Africa they're taking. Yet we may not have very many options. And it looks like we won't be able to invest until November over here, which isn't really that far off. Losing all of these occupations, but that's just something to expect. And one issue is Zanzibar. I wouldn't be absolutely shocked if people came and took Zanzibar over. which would be incredibly problematic. We will invest right there and just keep up the somewhat farce that we're actually able to compete against the British colonially. We'll lose that 8k to defend against terrible diseases just for the sake of we need people to pay taxes and whatnot. So it's not really even a moral stance to have, unless it was a colonial area or something like that and we wanted to encourage the amount of people who are our population to rise. Denmark did press forward. It looks as though they aren't able to press into Chad, which does seem to indicate that they are out of colonial power, or at least nearing a place where they will be. Get those good healthcare benefits. Now let's see, on the 20th we'll be able to create that colony. There we go. And now we just really need to get this secured. March 22nd is the day of days. And we can't invest there until February. We're going to hold off on other investments for the moment. Oh, cool, they're at war. Alright, so we won't invest anywhere until we see how this ticks over. We need to keep maintaining our investment in North Cameroon. And once we get this area in the Rift Valley, then we can start going around the British. We really just need Wadia and Chad. So let's see how this goes and plays out. Alright, North Carolina can go ahead and become more socialist, just so we can antagonize for reforms, which is generally something that we need, at least for the next little while. Okay, hopefully they don't immediately cut us off. Alright, great, we managed to do it. We should really justify warring against Zanzibar and just take Zanzibar over right now. They do have a truce with Portugal, but that's not really anything too concerning. Conquest, we could just demand a concession. Where's their capital? Their capital is in Zanzibar. So it actually looks like we wouldn't have to worry too much about people colonizing them. Alright, so yeah, we should actually be fine, because someone would have to go after Zanzibari Somaliland first. Alright, so that in mind, we can go ahead and focus our colonial efforts in basically everywhere else. And that won't be ready until May, and this we can do fairly well just right now. So we will go ahead and colonize in Wadia, and also press up into Chad, and that should be good enough. Oh, it looks like the Ottomans are colonizing. And they're actually doing weirdly well. Alright, well, I guess if it isn't one thing, it's something else. We'll go ahead and contest the Ottomans. Looks like we are going to have to fight the American army, or the American rebel armies, but we're doing amazingly well against them, so that's positive, at least. Alright, so we have this huge portion of Africa basically guaranteed to be ours. We have a lot of other areas that aren't really going all that well for us, and that's just somewhat to be expected, I suppose. And we really have to take two territories from Sokoto in order to really establish anything. So I don't know if we'd be able to defeat the Ottomans colonially, since they have a ton of areas. So if we can't, then pressing for Wadia doesn't really make the most sense. We may be overextended, I guess, is really the thing to discover. And we did lose that race against the British. Oh, and they're just contesting us everywhere. Alright, so... we will withdraw. We'll focus in Darfur. Let's see. What we can do is make sure that we do get Eastern Mali. And we'll just have to go ahead and invest in Chad a little bit more in the future. We might be able to defeat the Ottomans. I'm not saying it's something we should really anticipate. Let's see, though. What else are we able to do? We could upgrade our naval bases. I don't think that's going to be the most important thing at the moment. We could get administrative efficiency, so we will do that. And once we get a little bit more in the way of navies, which I'm not sure if we're actually done building. And are we still mobilized? That's a terrible mistake. We'll demobilize right now. That should help our economy out somewhat. Build a couple more ironclads. We can actually build ironclads in several of our states now. So alright, we'll just do that. And that should help us out considerably. Almost all of our naval bases are complete. We can actually upgrade that one more time. Guess we just sort of missed that, and this one more time as well. Alright, so that should work out decently well for us just throughout. We need to get just a few more, just a little bit more so we can contest the Ottomans in Chad. And that's going to be the most important thing. So it looks like if we can just do that in the next 70 days, then that would be good enough. And then we'll at least be guaranteed to get Darfur. Okay, let's see. Ah, okay, so we can't actually contest them. That's not great. So we might not even get Darfur for sure. Yeah, now they're actually contesting us there, which isn't optimal. We'll go ahead and keep investing in Western Mali. And, well, I guess there's really no reason for us to keep counter-investing against the British in Wadiya, since we won't really win that. Oh well. On the right side we are getting just more and more ships, so that's more and more colonial power. So overall it'll probably go well for us. Give our people some basic school systems and really just press for more and more reforms as time goes on. Now we can cut our tariffs a little bit. That's fairly positive. Alright, we're going to just lose in Wadiya, so we're not really going to even focus on that too much. In fact, we're just going to withdraw entirely. And that falls to the British, but it doesn't really matter too much. And other than that, we'll just keep contesting the Danes, and I believe they're out of colonial power now. So that's not too bad, and then we'll just contest the Ottomans, and eventually just seize this whole area. We can also probably go after Namaka land, or whatever you call it. So we're going after that right now. Insist that Texas is ours. Of course it is. That's a little worrying. Hopefully we don't get into some sort of awful war or anything. And in April we'll be able to justify a war against the Mexican state, so we will go ahead and do that right now. It'll just be to acquire a state, and it'll take us 581 days, and I believe that is in part due to war exhaustion, which is coming up due to blockaded home ports. So we're going to have to smash this American Navy right now, or we're never going to be able to declare war again. So it was actually pretty dumb of us to go ahead and kick their Navy out of their ports, since now they're just blockading us, and that's obviously far less than ideal since we're building up war exhaustion that we'll never be able to get down since we're constantly going to be at war. Although I do believe we will be able to defeat their navy, and that will be really all we need to do. They don't really have anywhere that they can retreat to unless they have access from someone else, which I don't believe that they do. Go ahead and create that protectorate, and that's all we need. We'll keep upgrading there and there. So alright, colonially we're doing fairly well. We managed to defeat the American Navy, so that's even better. Alright. And all things considered, we're not in that bad of a spot. That war exhaustion, though, is going to prove problematic, I can almost guarantee. On the bright side, we have quite a few soldier pops, so that's very nice, incredibly helpful. We'll go ahead and just build up in that manner. And we're probably going to have to constantly be augmenting our forces with, well, just with a whole bunch of reservists just brought up from our population at large. We'll go ahead and just group these groups all together. It's a little redundant, but I hope you get what we mean. We're just going to be constantly defending Washington, D.C. The war against Mexico will probably prove to be somewhat problematic, as we will have to really make up our minds on where we're going to focus. Alright, so hopefully our colonial power just keeps increasing in one way or another, as we're kind of caught up at the moment in what we're actually able to do. We are building more ironclads, so that is positive. And all we need to do is be able to win. Let's give me one moment as we just click through all these battles. We are winning fairly decently. And we are able to invest in Darfur. We don't really want to do that. We want to invest in Western Mali, but it'll take quite a bit of colonial power to do so. So we might just permanently be trapped right there, as we don't really have any colonies on their way to completion, other than right here. Okay, so we do actually have enough. In November 24th, we'll take that area over, and then we'll invest our remaining colonial power to win there, and then we'll circle over and win in Darfur. Alright, so that should be functional enough. We will go ahead and get some army techs. We'll go for logistics, dig deep, what is it? Deep defense system is almost certainly going to be necessary for the continued defense of Washington, D.C. Alright, now we've managed to do all of this colonizing. We will continue to invest in Darfur. And now we will also just seep through the rest of this Africa that we have available for us. And that'll take care of most of that. I didn't actually expect anyone to go after Liberia. That's sort of odd. They never really do that. I guess maybe they've changed in some way how they approach that. That's a little weird, but nothing too terrible or surprising, I suppose. Alright, and now we'll just really dig into all this colonization efforts. And we have a good year or so before we're able to actually declare war on Mexico, and that works out decently well for us actually, since we don't really want to rush into a war while we're still able to build units and prepare. We will have to set up 2 different colonial hotspots, I suppose you could call them, or really just 2 different rally points. And we'll just rush our forces to those places and hope to get a decently sized African military, just to augment the rest of our forces. And then we'll use that massive imperial army to go just kind of bludgeon in to Mexico and take over Nuevo Leon. And from there we'll take over Sonora and then just push them out of the United States at large. Get some acceptable schools. And at some point we are going to want to declare war on Sokoto, although it will be somewhat risky, since if we take over one area, the British might just take over the rest. And it is a little awful having this weird bit of Britain just kind of in the middle of everything. Not that we're able to do anything about it. Oh, okay, there is a crisis now for Dahomey, something like that. Doesn't really matter, I suppose. That one region in Africa. Alright, so we're not going to encourage full citizenship just because that really does stand in the way of what we're trying to achieve as a country. Spain supporting the UK, that's kind of cool. Doesn't really affect us too much. And in August we should be able to move forward. The Ottomans broke their alliance with the UK, which is probably a terrible call on their part. Oh, and they allied Austria-Hungary, so I guess the 2 dying men of Europe historically are now friends. And yeah, the occupation of the United States, we have managed to basically, how to phrase this? We've basically managed to just kind of put the tyrannizing of the Americans into the hands of other Americans, which I suppose you could say we're Americans as well, so we're kind of just really setting that up. At any rate, it's going fairly well for us. Someone had asked if we're able to get immigrants. Let's find out. I believe we are. Come on, migrations. I play this game enough, you would think I would know where all that was. Alright, so we're actually getting the most immigrants, it looks like. So, yeah, we're actually doing fairly well in that regard. We should probably go just occupy every single one of these American states over time. That way we're the only state that's able to get a decent amount of immigrants. And that would actually probably do us a very good amount. That would actually help us out tremendously, I'd imagine. I'll go ahead and just encourage soldiers literally everywhere. We'll let people be more liberal. Not that we really want to encourage liberalism, although we just did. Oops. We'll withdraw from there for a moment and just see what we end up with once we take all of these territories. Alright, so we're doing fairly well. We'll go ahead and just invest right there. And we'll keep on keeping on. So this is going really well, actually. Alright, and worst case, the Ottomans do get Darfur, and it's not really as though that matters so much. So I'm not really going to fret too much if they do take it over. Other than that, though, things are going well. Looks like it's going to be a giant war between the UK, France, Germany. Wow, okay, so that's a legitimate great war then. So that's cool. We don't have to get involved, and we're not going to. So good for us in a way. Alright, we'll carry these forces over and get ready for our war against Mexico. We'll leave the smaller of these two groups and bring the rest of our military to bear. It looks like they have something like 90,000 men total, and that's not really all that much. We have a bunch of troops meeting up in Austin. We'll move that over to Delicias, and we'll go ahead and just mobilize. See how well that works for us. More battles for Washington. Hopefully the force that we left behind is large enough to just kind of maintain. And we won't be able to invest until late December. Hopefully we only need 24 colonial power, although I wouldn't actually be adverse to canceling one of our other protectorates. Oh, cool. Mexico declared war on the United States, so their armies are going to be slightly out of position. However, they might mobilize. They'll definitely mobilize when we declare war. And we need 50 colonial power, so we will actually just cancel the colonization of Congo Oriental and just focus on Darfur a little bit. So the Mexican army is roving up north, and this actually could work out very well for us because we'll just go meet them wherever they end up and just go smash into them. Because they will be occupying American territory, so we can actually just declare war while we're just, you know, actively sitting on wherever they're at. Alright, so it looks like France managed to just take over... Oh, no. Britain took over those two areas, so it looks like the war was fairly quickly fought and ended. Alright, now we have this massive amount of force present. And we're going after Nuevo Leon. So get ready to just get absolutely smashed, Mexican army. Now they are mobilizing, as makes sense. And they're down to just 20 brigades. So, you know, good opening salvo. Salvo? Okay, yeah, good opening salvo in this war. And we can hopefully intercept those forces as they group up. And we'll just group all the rest of our forces together, more or less. Haiti wants to ally us. No. And yeah, we'll just keep going. We might end up becoming a great power, which would be pretty cool. Although we'll see how that goes. We'll definitely be a great power based on prestige almost entirely if it does work out like that. And hopefully we'll be able to build up a decent-sized military over time. Alright, victory right there. We'll push them over into this forest. It looks like we're not going to beat them to it, but we'll still get there. And we're doing well enough. We are losing this colonial race. Let's go ahead and just invest. We can't really. And we have to wait long enough that we may as well just push forward and keep investing. I'm not sure how much colonial power the Ottomans will maintain, but it's not like we're really at risk of losing anything if we keep battling them. Alright, and we'll just push forward even further. We'll go ahead and get deep defense systems just so that our forces occupying Washington are able to dig in even further. And that'll just give us even more luck against the American army. Keep pushing forward. Where are they going? Alright, we're all going to the same place. That's the important thing. Argentina is bankrupt. I'm really shocked that the United States isn't bankrupt. Although I guess they don't have expenses, especially since we destroyed their navy. We could also probably be blockading Mexico. So we'll go and do that right now. I'm not sure where their navy is or if they even own one. And we can't really attack this force in the mountains, as that would go pretty poorly for us, more likely than not. We can attack them once they get out of the mountains, though, which is what we're going to do right now. And we'll go follow up with all these infantrymen, just to be safe. Alright, no sign of their navy down there, so we'll bring these individual ships out. We are kind of hemorrhaging money, which is obviously less than ideal. And they do have a considerably large navy, although it isn't really anywhere to be seen. Go ahead and get our people a good school system, and they'll probably appreciate that a little bit. And we'll just maintain course. We might have to take some loans, not the worst case. Don't really want to mess up our economy too badly if we don't need to. Lines offered from Sweden, we'll just go ahead and ignore that forever. And we'll go smash into this one army, just to be safe. And I think we can pull off a decent amount of victories. Alright, we can just rush in, doing well. We can create some protectorates, so we'll stop all this and go do that. I think we lost, yeah, we lost that. So that's unfortunate, but not really so troubling. We were focusing on wars, and that is really the more important thing, all things considered. Alright, and that's pretty cool. We'll just kind of maintain course now. We'll create colonies as we're able to. And just keep smashing through Mexico. It's not really as though anything can happen, other than ours just kind of pushing through. And they're not really even a threat anymore. Oh, they do have a considerably large army just over there. We're probably going to leave a portion of their military intact, just because there's no real reason for us to destroy it. And they'll just use it to bludgeon into the United States, and that works out really in our favor anyway. So we'll just group our forces up so they're in large enough stacks that the Mexicans don't think that they can just overwhelm us. And that'll keep them from actually engaging us in combat. And now we can just take Nuevo Leon, go ahead and grab that, extend some slavery to there, and we'll pull our forces back and demobilize. Oh, and Victoria 2 just crashed, which is, well, not ideal, so we'll pop back in. Alright, so that was rather annoying. We are popping back. We're still, luckily, I guess, in the race for Darfur, so we can probably just withdraw from Kazembe and make sure that we actually stay in this race. And other than that, we actually haven't declared war on Mexico just yet, so that's a little inconvenient. We will just rush our forces up and do basically the exact same thing we just did. I'll not edit that out, since, I don't know, I guess, well, I don't even know. It does kind of suck that that happened the way it did, but this is an easy-ish war, so we'll just go declare war on them, smash that army to bits. Mexico's mobilizing, yeah, we already know how this plays out. Hopefully we're able to just obliterate that group, doesn't look like it. Going over to Phoenix, that's okay. Man, I'm really sad that it crashed. I mean, nothing's really going to change. We'll get, you know, Darfur, perhaps, but that's not really even anything. That's basically something that we were totally okay with just giving up. Okay, so kind of unfortunately, but also kind of fortunately, I had autosaves set up to take place in 5-year intervals. So we very nearly lost a tremendous amount of progress. Luckily though, as you can see, it's 1880. We made it to November 1880, so we only lost 11 months. I went and changed it so it'll autosave every 6 months. Which, well, two things to that. It's going to be a lot more annoying, quite frankly. Hopefully, though, my computer's quick enough that it won't really be too detrimental. Let's go stop them from actually occupying our territory right there. And I'll just bring our whole force to bear against them. We just got military logistics, so that's good. We'll get deep defense systems for the same reason as previously. keep investing over there, and we can do that in June. Alright, so once again, I think we have a pretty decent chance of becoming a great power by the end of this episode. I mean, you know, slightly less of a good chance now that we've had to go back about 11 months. However, we're still doing well. I mean, we are doing very well. We're going to smash the Mexican army. There's really no getting around that. They'll probably still be able to go roll through and smash the United States, since the United States doesn't actually really have a military in any real way, other than just roving bands of rebels, and that's really not anything that an actual country with an actual army is going to have to concern itself about. So yeah, we'll just kind of rush on through to the other side of this war. And we'll just go smash into that group. Hopefully 24,000 men's enough to defeat 8,000 on a mountain. And yeah, I don't really feel too much concern about this. Colombia wants to ally us, and we'll actually do that because that, you know, isn't that terrible. And that'll help us eventually influence all the other American states, which is something we're going to want to do in time. Alright, they have a slightly larger force here than we would have anticipated earlier. And it looks like some of our troops just kind of bit the bullet and rushed in there, and that's not really ideal. Overall, though, we should be fine. And we'll just push through their territory. Oh, cool, and they're fighting American rebels, so my statement about them not really being a concern, it looks like we are actually going to just be able to flow on in, and we'll just cut them off. We have a larger army than they do. We are going to have some issue with just running into right there. You'll notice we're auto-saving right now. Get those good school systems. I believe we can go ahead and start these, or create these protectorates. Get those all set up. Create some protectorates right there. And we have until July 8th, so we'll just go ahead and tick through, upgrade that guy, and move back. So they did manage to win that battle, which is kind of to be expected. And we'll just keep on keeping on. I actually kind of hope we don't intercept them, and we didn't, so that's kind of lucky. Oh look, and they're fighting, so we get to just kind of chill there. So that works out pretty well. We are still hemorrhaging money though, and that's not really awesome. Austro-Hungary wants to ally us, but there's really no purpose in that. And we're probably going to start taking loans, which is less than ideal, but not really so terrible. Looks like there are some rebels in Mexico City, so let's just rush on in. And then we get to attack them as soon as that ends. Did we lose that? What the? Alright, we'll just rush back over there. Okay, that's annoying. So I guess we lose if the people they're fighting lose. But I guess now at least we have the defense in this mountain, so that's kind of cool, but also really annoying. Just based on how it happened, not so much what's happening. Alright, and we have to take a little bit of a loan before we do that, otherwise it would put us into bankruptcy, and that would just absolutely suck. And basically be game breaking. We'll go smash that Mexican army. And really the quicker this can just kind of go through, the better. More battles of Washington being won. We did smash that one military. Keep investing against the Ottomans. We might even lose the battle to colonize that, even with this second chance and the entirety of our colonial power just kind of shoveled into it. Dominican Republic wants to ally us. I don't really want to ally them. We'll go blockade Mexico. We already know that it's safe waters all around them. Alright, good stuff. And there we go, acquire Nuevo Leon. We'll extend that slavery. And we'll just kind of peacefully march our forces back before we demobilize. I'm not sure what really caused the game to crash, but we'll just not risk anything if we don't need to. Alright, our forces are all back into our regular homeland, so we'll go ahead and cancel all of that. And we'll bring our forces up and just kind of deal with all of these American rebels, although it doesn't really look as though they're too threatening. Alright, and now we just have to wait until January. This guy will be ready in March, so that doesn't really align too well. Overall, doing well. We're almost a great power. The number 8 ranking great power is currently Spain by the looks of it, although it is a little hard to see, and they have 475 score, whereas our total is actually significantly less than that. So Spain and then the CSA, and we're about 60 points less, a little bit more than 60 points lower than they are. Alright, so we'll just wait until we colonize Kazembe. If the Ottomans manage to beat us, then they do, and it looks like they do manage to beat us, so that's really not that bad. We just kind of lost it a little bit later, but it doesn't really matter. We'll go ahead and just invest in the rest of Africa and start getting all these people into actual colonies instead of just protectorates or what have you. Or create them. Okay, so they're currently protectorates, now they're colonial provinces. Alright, and I guess that just gives you a pathway to turn them into states, although obviously not a direct path. Alright, and then, yeah, we're basically good. Go ahead and take a loan before we do anything about that pandemic influenza, just so we don't go horribly bankrupt. And we'll keep maintaining funding to our military and probably move a good portion of it out so we don't just lose them all to attrition for literally no reason. And yeah, we're doing decently well, I would say. We have something like 4 more minutes, and then we'll call it. The Mexicans are still at war with the United States, and that'll probably keep their army basically just really weak as they keep sending too few forces to actually take over the United States. And that should hopefully just result in them dying to rebels and keeping rebels away from our army. So yeah, really just overall positives no matter what. And we'll probably be able to keep this going until the colonization of Africa is more or less complete. And that would be pretty sweet. Totally finished the colonization of Africa in 2 of the 3 campaigns, although admittedly in part that's because the holy sort of good, divine, well, just moralistic America doesn't have colonies at all, so we kind of sidestepped the colonization of Africa with them in that sense. And yeah, you'll notice that this is the only version of the Confederacy that hasn't had to deal with uprisings of American pan-nationalists. And I'd go so far as to say that that is because we are the only form that is the most successful American state. And I do believe that is entirely accurate, not even just sort of technically accurate, since the Canadians are rank 16 and Mexico's rank 18. So yeah, we're basically doing as well as we need to do. Let's see, our people want some trinket minimum wages and things like that. We'll go ahead and give people some pensions. And we do have some unemployment, but not really so much that it matters. And yeah, we'll just kind of sit back and let Mexico take back all of their cores. Let's see. So that should be fine. They only have 1 more core left, and it looks like they're actually taking it right now. So after this, we'll be able to just invade them for Sonora and then push them out of all of these other areas. Alright, and all said and done, we're doing very well. So if we do become a great power, that would be pretty fantastic. We will go ahead and get realism and other prestige texts. Actually, we need phenomenology right now. Just because, you know, nothing's more important than just science text unless you're going after something like, you know, defense against gas attack, which is obviously incredibly important. Alright, we'll even push off into Amhara and probably take over Ethiopia. Oh, we have to demand concession? Well, we'll just hold off on that. Oh, and we can create a protectorate right there. Forgot about this little dude. And we'll go ahead and just create colonies out of everything else, and we should be good to go in just a moment. Our various Africas are really almost identical. We kind of underperformed in some respects, but overperformed in others. Namely, we got a little bit more in some areas, but, you know, not really so much to just go home about and really just say we did amazingly well. The only exception would be the ultimately moralistic America, and we only did so poorly in that regard because we didn't declare war on Libya or Liberia. Entirely different things, those. Alright, and we're basically at the point where we should be calling it, because it is about an hour in. It doesn't look like we're able to break into great power status, nor are we really able to finish up the colonization of Africa, although we did get very close. So yeah, that's all pretty good. I believe we would have to get nationalism and imperialism, and then we would be able to just roll into Ethiopia and conquer them and get Eritrea, Djibouti from Eritrea, or Djibouti in Eritrea, and get all the way over to the other side of Africa. Looks like... oh no. Oh, okay. So the United Kingdom is now friendly with the United States. That's far less than ideal. However, since our war score is our war goal is status quo, I don't believe they're able to intervene. So in a way that is positive, although it is unfortunate. Mexico will not be able to take over New Mexico, more likely than not, and our borders will look pretty atrocious if we do take over these Mexican states. They wouldn't be ideal if we did manage to take over New Mexico, but it'll be even worse now. So that's a little annoying. Hopefully Mexico is able to bounce back and take over the United States. In fact, what we could do is just give up Washington, D.C., and that'll... we'll wait. We will wait until the Americans have their truce run up with Mexico, and then we'll go ahead and let them be overrun by, let's say they're communists. And then we'll go ahead and just reoccupy, since I don't think the communists really control that much land, and more people will rise up in rebellion afterwards. So yeah, that way they'll get out of the American sphere, or the British sphere of influence, and that'll help us out in the long run. It'll get Mexico their core back, and then we can just take over that region. And then once that's done, we can go about just pushing into all of the rest of the Americas and just kind of occupying them, or doing really whatever we feel like, as at that point we'll be in a pretty powerful position. If we do end up at war with a great power, then we're probably going to do what we're doing to the United States, only to them. So that would be interesting and probably logistically straining to a pretty considerable degree. But we'll see how it goes. We might end up being the first-ranked great power in the world simply by occupying all of the other great powers. That is something that I think would be a worthwhile and interesting end goal. However, we are obviously nowhere quite near a position where we're able to do that just yet. If we maintain our considerable naval strength, though, then that'll really set us up on the right path. And we'll just see how everything plays out. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.